Welcome. This is the second in a four-part series called Uniqueness and Harmony. And if you were present at, or if you listened to the recording of the first class, then you heard a meditation at the end on harmony that Diane's going to kind of recap for us. But that was focused on harmonizing the different individual parts of ourselves. And today we're going to be continuing to focus primarily on our inner self, but this time the relationship between the different parts of ourself, particularly our manifest self and the divine or the transcendent.
So as some of you remember, and others, hopefully this will be the first time that you've heard this, we had a chance to take a look at the parts of our being as if we were a musical instrument. And we had the part of ourself that is the physical, and then the heart area and heart, and then finally the whole spiritual self. And so I listened to it later on, and I love it very much, and I would really recommend that we do it as kind of a regular practice for a while. So I thought I'd go through it again in brief. So we won't have quite as much time each time to concentrate on it, but you'll hear the directions. So first, let's see ourselves as amazing musical instruments. Imagine that there are sounds that emanate from different parts of your body, and if there's a place in your body that's stressful or hurting or numb, imagine that that area will come to resonance with its own natural pitch in harmony with the rest of your being. So take a little time to do that. And when one area is in harmony, you can go to another area till all of your being is resonating with each other. And now we'll move on to your heart, to your emotions. Notice if there are any emotions tugging at you. It could be sadness, feelings of upset. Imagine your heart now is part of this amazing instrument of your being. You're allowing those emotions to blend into the beautiful vibration of your heart. Keep tuning to that heart. Your heart is full of compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. Now move on to the spiritual aspect of your being, your relationship with the divine, however it seems to you. Your beloved, God, the One. Become aware of any places that cause a sense of separation or disconnection. It could even include feelings of unworthiness or guilt. Now you're allowing the connection, which is the deepest aspect of your being. You are an expression of this divine, which you are in never-ending relationship with, in your inner life and outer life. Let any dissonant sounds in there to come to resonance, becoming part of a symphony. Some of the notes seeming to descend and come into yourself, and others variations on a theme that you return to the divine. And feel that circulation. And so I hope that you've had some changes already, and that you can return to this idea of your being as this beautiful instrument of the divine and use it some more when you can.
So we talked last time about what are the necessary ingredients for harmony. One is equilibrium. It's the balancing of the different aspects of ourselves that this meditation is aimed at helping to bring about. But also, it requires a relationship between yourself and whatever you're in relationship with. And next week we're going to be focusing on our outer life and our relationship with things in the world. But we also can look at the relationship between the different parts of ourself, in particular our manifest sense of self and what we think of as the divine or the transcendent, or however that seems to be to you. We want to have we need to have a relationship, and we want to have a balance in that relationship. So how could that relationship get out of balance? Well, one way it could get out of balance is if you're thinking that the ideal is to just diminish your human side and just disappear it, so just the divine comes through, your notion of God. So I'm not here, I'm just this empty channel, it's all just the divine. And that's a nice ideal, but it really diminishes the importance and the reason why there was a creation in the first place. Well, why is there a you if the point was for the you to get out of the way so just the divine can come down into manifestation? Well, for one, the divine can't come directly into manifestation the way that we think about some God up there. The divine manifests in manifestation only by virtue of the relationship between the beings in manifestation and the transcendent side of things. And as we've talked about before, even Arby says that we are actually human-divine beings. We are beings of bi-unity. We are human divine beings. And he says that neither side really could exist or can have its function without the other side. So the purpose of creation can't be fulfilled without our human side, and our human side, perceived as being separated from everything else, can't fulfill our own purpose, our dharma, without the connection with what you could say is the rest of ourself, which is the divine side of things. So one way we could get out of balance, as I said, would be just the focus too much on what we think of as the divine side coming through. And if you imagine there was a dial and you're just turning down the brightness of the human side, well, that would be one way, but that's not going to really get it done. And the other way it could get out of balance is just the focus on the human side. I am this separated being, and I'm trying to get to something. My purpose of my spiritual journey is to get to, and we've talked about this before, enlightenment, nirvana, moksha, mukti, illumination, heaven, whatever, that somehow your separated self is going to turn into something else when you get to the finish line. Well, that doesn't work either. You can't get there with the perception of a separated sense of self. So now let's turn the focus a little bit sharper. Sufis talk a lot about something they call the nafs, N-A-F-S, which translates as ego. And historically, the nafs has been thought of as not a good thing. It's something that needs to be suppressed or sometimes even crushed. And so the divine can come through. But I think a much more helpful way of looking at this is to consider this notion of nafs or ego, or you could say our sense of self, is our vantage point. It's what we come to identify with as who we are. You could also say it's our frame of reference. It's the frame of reference through which we relate to everything else that takes place. The way that we make sense out of our sensory input, the way we make sense out of mystical experiences. We tend to just bring them back down to a narrow vantage point and try to integrate it just from that particular vantage point. So, is that going to bring about harmony? Nope. You can't have harmony from that because it's separated. If there's harmony, if it's in music, you have to have the different waveforms interacting with each other. You can't have one just in isolation in a bell jar and something else out here. No harmony is possible then. There has to be a resonance between the two sides, and there has to be a resonance in a way that one just doesn't totally wipe out the other one because it's so dominant that there's nothing left of what was there on the other side. So when we sit and do whatever our way of doing spiritual practices is, it's really important how we relate to what's going on. Pirbalayat would say we need to have an intention every time we sit down and meditate. Well, what's your purpose? And it could vary. It could be, I'd like to have some insight into a situation. I would like to have a closer experience of the divine beloved. It could be a whole spectrum of different things. But to have an intention, but then to have an openness and a receptivity that allows an experience to take place. Because if you're prefiguring what you think is going to happen, it's never going to be very good because it's limited by your concept of what might be able to take place. And if you've ever had a mind-boggling experience, an awe-inspiring experience, whether in the outer world or in the inner world, it was probably way better than anything you could have conceived of beforehand. So we don't want to limit the possibilities by assuming, okay, this is what I'm looking for, and I'm just going to sit here until I get what I'm looking for. Well, instead, you can put forth an intention and be in a state of, psychologists sometimes call this passive volition. You have an intention, but you're just letting it go, and now you're open to what emerges, which may be something very different than what you had thought of to start with.
Perfect time for change. I wanted to say too that when we're looking for that particular way of connecting with the divine, it's almost like you've carved out a door that, let's say it's shaped like a screwdriver or something. And so all that you're going to accept is that shape, right? And you're just thinking of, no, nothing's coming. Well, obviously just too specific with that. We need to be a little more open. And I wanted to share that I was feeling this during this week. I wanted to have more connection with the divine. And I wasn't feeling it right then. But I got in the car and I thought, well, I'm going to just be open. Well, so on the radio, it was halfway through a song by the Beatles. And some of you are participating with me in this activity. And this is what came on to the radio, this sound. Love you forever and forever. Love you with all my heart. Love you whenever we're together. Love you when we're apart. And when at last I find you, your song will fill the air. Sing it loud so I can hear you. Make it easy to be near you. For the things you do endear you to me. Oh, you know I will. I will. Boy, we have a wonderful choir here. Yeah. So I opened to the possibilities. It didn't have to look like a certain way, but I recognized it. Of course, I was in tears even driving and feeling that very intimate connection that I have, even when love you when we're together, love you when we're apart. I was thinking of a friend that has had some difficulties right now, and she's far away, and I was missing her, so it was a little for her. And when at last I find your song will fill the air, here we go, we filled the air with the song, and make it easy to be near you. I have been thinking lately that I was being a little sniggly, snaggly, and difficult in our relationship here, and I needed to be a little softer with that. So it's touching all these different parts of me that had a concern and wanted to be in that connection and have that. So that was a beautiful way of connecting. And I'm going to review the other aspects that, besides the relationship with the divine, that we're talking about here. Another way to keep our harmony going is nature's beauty. If you remember from last time, seeing ourselves as part of that wonder. Not, oh, that's beautiful over there, but that our participation in looking at this flower, or our participation in gardening and all the plants that are in our garden. And a quote from Hafiz about that: you see these things in yourself. I'm talking here about when we see the negative things in ourselves and are being critical. When we see these things in ourselves, it's because we see with our eyes. If you see yourself with God's eyes, you're adorned in glory, adorned in glory. So that's reminding you about nature's beauty being an important aspect, besides that expectation in your heart for that connection with the divine. And the third one is finding the divine presence by embodying your highest ideals. So this really has, especially if we have a meditation process that we use, often including the names of God or the different attributes of God, then gentleness, mildness, respect, humility, modesty, self-denial, conscientiousness, tolerance, forgiveness. When we find those expressing, or in our friends, I would include that too, then we are having this participation in harmony with what's going on. And I know that a lot of what Azarbash was talking about here, as far as the aim of this whole class really, is to be able to see the circulation of all of it, rather than isolating on one side or another of a wall. And sometimes that happens with love, it happens with humor, it happens with activity and serving in different ways. And all those are helpful for helping that connection that we want to have.
So related to all of this, we've talked in the past about fana, which means a releasing of a previous way of being or understanding. The old translation is annihilation, shattering, which sometimes it can certainly feel like that. But again, a gentler way of thinking about this is we go through periods of growth in our life, and we go through stages, and we talked about this some last time. The Sufis call them maqam, M-A-Q-A-M. And when we're finished with the work of one station, our being is seeking to reorganize to a higher state of being, but it's not a linear, continuous process. You just don't go like up one stair step to the next and get to the next one. You have to be in a period of unknowingness, of incubation or hatching, you could say, in which you don't know what's going to emerge from that, but you have a confidence and trust that it's going to be something that is going to further your purpose in life and what you're aiming for in your spiritual journey. So in meditation, we can set forth an intention, but then we can release that, and we can enjoy the in-betweenness of, it may take a while to get a response. And I've shared this in some earlier series of classes. One time a practice came to me. It was a form of Sufi practice of the zikr, and part of it was experiencing where your manifest and the divine side come to meet with each other, and you're just in this wonderful state of connection. And then I had the question, well, so that was one repetition of this practice, this circular motion of the head going down and up. And so my question was, well, what is it that brings about the desire for there to be another one of these? You know, what's after this? And I sat with this question for 3 weeks. And then it came to me in meditation, this whole, I call them divine downloads. They're like condensed nuggets of wisdom that sometimes take months or a year to unpack. And it was a whole understanding of the eliciting light of Sophia. It's like the force that draws from us a desire for something more than what's been before. And it's the same force that drew the divine to bring about creation. Because if you think about it, here's the divine described as this infinite ocean of unknowingness and perfect light and everything. Well, why would the divine ever want to leave home? And, it sounds pretty good. But something stirred and something caused a longing in the divine's being and pulled out from the divine a desire for there to be something more that couldn't even be known to the divine. The divine couldn't possibly know what the outcome of this creation was going to be. It had a desire, you could say, the Sufis say, God wanted to know him herself, to love and be loved, but couldn't know what that was going to be like until there was a manifestation, until there were beings in manifestation, and each of us is one of those, who become capable of awakening, their own individual unique relationship with the divine. So now there can be this circulation of light, this two-way, not totally just the divine blasting down here, and not the human side just going, okay, I've got what I need here, I'm just separated, let me accumulate what I can get here. But this relationship between the two sides that now is enabling possibilities that were not ever there before. So this process of going through this phenomena, you could say, it isn't just us, what we think of our human side that goes through phenomena, but what we think of as God, the divine that goes through God's phenomena in this in-between period. And how often does this happen? At every instant. Because at every instant there's a new creation born, the Sufis say. And even Arvi says that new creation is similar to, but never identical with, what's been before. So it's always something new, and we can become capable of participating in that process through enabling this circulation to take place. And again, now bringing the focus back to the emphasis of what we're doing today, our inner self, our inner experiences, our relationship with however we conceive of and relate to God, the divine, the transcendent. What transpires from that relationship taking place is an emergence of something that couldn't happen from either side by itself. So we could say that our process of awakening is not just something that we gain from, which we certainly do gain many benefits from it, but it's something that everything in existence gains from, and it's something that the divine being gains from, that we are helping bring about a gift to the divine being through this connection and this relationship.
So if we think of our lives and what's going on around us as a musical song or piece that's being played, maybe a symphony, something like that, it's easy to think about, well, we're playing this instrument and then they're playing their instruments and we're together as kind of as one, but we're really still thinking of ourselves as separate. I think as we grow and learn, we can start to identify with those around us and the situations around us as even speaking to us, as well, me with the radio, things emerging from not seeming like it's me, it's coming from elsewhere, and it seems like it's my story, that it's being revealed here for me, but also, of course, then there's the other viewpoints of the same situation. So we are a part of this entire story, and we're gradually learning that. This is a quote by Hazrat Inayat Khan about this sort of thing. So the Sufi, by a study of life, learns and practices the nature of this harmony. So we're talking about harmony in general, right? About everybody in this music. She establishes harmony with the self, with others, with the universe, with the infinite. She identifies herself with another, sees herself in other beings. She cares for neither blame nor praise, Ooh, this is a heavy duty one. Considering both as coming from herself. Okay, so it's seeing the story that's unfolding around, even if someone else is getting the blame or the praise, that we enter into that story, that we're allowing it to be, we're not putting up the boundary of self and other, we're allowing it to be this unfolding of the story. Now here's a good example he gave us. If a person were to drop a heavy weight and in so doing hurt his own foot, he would not blame his hand for having dropped it, realizing himself in both the hand and the foot. In like manner, the Sufi is tolerant when harmed by another, thinking that the harm has come from himself alone. And this is cute too. He uses counterpoint by blending the undesirable talk of a friend and making it into a fugue. So I'm not too familiar with, our musicians might be better at
like Bach's staccato fugue, the organ thing where it goes back and forth with the themes.
So some of it might sound like noise, and some of it might sound sweet, but together it makes, I guess, the fugue. So what I'm saying is that it's a mixture of the things that we're observing and the things that are seeming to come from ourselves, and we need to be able to see that story and accept the challenges, I guess, of situations and take them to heart, rather than backing up or being thankful it didn't happen to me, or kind of, they shouldn't be like that. Separating ourselves in these different kinds of ways. That and when we see it in that aspect, then that we're learning all the time. We're learning, even when a little dog or a plant or the sunshine or some kind of change happens, we're pulled into that drama. And there's a word for the allegory of the soul, is something that begins, that's really what I'm describing, that your soul is composing something here. And if we can allow that to touch our hearts, and also in what we've just been saying, that the heart is pulling the story. Your own heart is pulling, like me with the radio again. They can emerge from around us if we can open those eyes. That's the harmony. That's the reason that we are so, that harmony seems to be such a very good topic, because that harmony is what's bringing the whole together and putting the fences down and allowing us to progress with our learning.
So let's take a look at how we process experiences that we have, in this case focusing on inner experiences. So most people have had either spontaneous experiences or experiences through meditation or some spiritual practice where they feel in a very different state of consciousness. And how do we describe that? Oh, I raised my consciousness to such and such a level. Like, implied in that is like you've gone someplace, now you're in this place of consciousness, and you come back to the usual state after that. And then oftentimes when someone's had an experience like that in meditation, they try to make sense out of it, and they say, well, that was like, and then you fill in the blanks what it was like. I felt energy moving through my body. I perceived a kind of light that was like such and such. I felt a vibration that was like so and so. I heard music even that sounded like such and such. I saw imagery. I saw a landscape that was heavenly. And these are all wonderful because, well, I'll use an example. Our phones, for instance, when we plug them into the charger, it's not going to put in 120 volts directly into your phone. Guess what would happen if it did? Your phone would be fried. Those little box-like things that you plug in are transformers that transform that power out of your electricity in your house to 5 volts or 9 volts or sometimes 20 volts or whatever, but they step it down to a way that can be processed and made use out of. In the same way, well, it says, I think it says in the scriptures somewhere, I don't even remember what religion, but God saying, no one can see my face and live. Well, that's exactly true, because we couldn't handle that energy, that light. It would just blow all the circuitry in our body. We have to have a way of stepping it down and translating it into a form that's perceptible and that we can make use out of. Well, guess what all the great masters and saints and prophets and mystical poets and great musicians have done with that? They've translated an experience into a form that can be perceived and processed. Same true of artists or a dancer, anyone in any kind of creative form. In the scriptures, what is it? It's parables, it's metaphors. In Buddhism, it's mandalas. In yoga, it's yantras, these geometric patterns, or these beautiful
sacraments too.
These beautiful designs and whatever that are aimed at helping people go through a portal. We talked before about everything being a portal to the sacred, can enter into that mystical state that's beyond words, but then bring something back from it, because otherwise, and this is very normal on the spiritual journey, this is very common. I've been teaching meditation to people for 50 years, and it's very commonly the case. Let's say there's a group that's been meditating together, and then a new person joins and we have a guided meditation. Then often that new person will say, well, I don't know what happened, I fell asleep, I blanked out. Well, they didn't blank out, but they were in a state that they didn't have a way of bridging that to their usual state. Or someone just going, kind of, I can't put into words what happened, because they were in just something that was so different. But gradually, over time, we find a way of bridging, and we could say making more intimate and lasting the experience that takes place when these two sides of our own being, the human and divine, come together. And that's wonderful when that happens. And Pure Vilayat was a master of guiding people through these incredible meditations through all the different subtle realms, but he would usually use landscapes of the soul, he called them. He would have music that really embodied the attunement of those. I remember one that was I don't remember the name of the young boy, but this boy singing that would just melt your heart. I mean, it's just like, this is heavenly music. Some of you may have heard, this was several years ago, there was a blind Japanese pianist that was a guest performer with the Corpus Christi Symphony. Did any of you go to that? It was at A&M's Performance Hall. But if there was an angel playing the piano, this was it. I mean, just unbelievable. So it's important for us to customize our way of experiencing what takes place in our inner life. So we don't have to settle for someone else's description. That's helpful. That's kind of like a pointer. Okay, try this one out. But you may try this one out and go, well, I'm having a different experience. This is what I'm perceiving. And if you open to that, again, without trying to close it up into, now I've got it, now I know what it is, but just being open to the mystery of what's going to unfold and staying present with that. And I've talked before about being present is not a static state. Presence isn't just, okay, here I am aware of everything around me. Presence is an emergent property of when you're in that condition of relationship with what you're experiencing. And when you can be in that state of presence with your inner life, then you've opened the cosmic doorway for experiences to unfold that are never ending in their beauty and wonder. And then, depending on your own desire, if people have had something really wonderful, well, there's often, you'd like to be able to share some of that with other people. And so maybe you have your own way of expressing that in your life, and maybe it's through art, music, poetry, some realization that you'd like to share with people that helps them to have like a little nugget to latch on to, that maybe is a seed that opens up their own experience. So even Army had a wonderful way of talking about this. He would say that oftentimes people settle for the corporate God. And I don't think they had corporations back then like they do now, thank goodness. But he was talking, the corporate God would be like the generic description of God in any particular tradition, like Allah, just the generic notion of what Allah is about, or the God of Christianity, or the God of Judaism, or the God of Hinduism. And ultimately these different religions would have their wise people saying, well, these are all just aspects of the one truth. There's not different truths, but there's different ways of perceiving that. But he would say, instead of that, find your personal Lord. Your personal Lord is your own unique way of relating to this mystery. And it's unique to you, and it changes over time. And I think you were going to talk some about this, right? The ideal? Or...
Well, I have something that's kind of like that.
Okay, go ahead.
So I would say that this is kind of taking a little quick look at someone who is in harmony, and it's by Hafiz. So this is somebody, and the title is Today. So apparently in this day they really feel it, and maybe this is you today or tomorrow. I do not want to step so quickly over a beautiful line on God's palm as I move through the earth's marketplace today. I do not want to touch any object in this world without my eyes testifying to the truth that everything is my beloved. Something has happened to my understanding of existence that now makes my heart always full of wonder and kindness. I do not want to step so quickly over this sacred place on God's body that is right beneath your own foot as I dance with precious life today. So this one, I believe, is seeing the divine in a lot in the world, and is very fluid with recognizing. It's like having, instead of my radio with one station, I'd have all the stations, and I'm aware of all that's evolving and turning, and that would be a goal for us. Maybe not today, but maybe tomorrow.
So maybe this would be a good time for a meditation.
Would you lead us in one?
Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes. And let's seed this meditation with a phrase that came to me. But imagine you're affirming this to yourself. You're saying this to yourself. I complete God as God completes me. I'll say it again. I complete God as God completes me. And let's have this meditation be fueled by not a concept, intellectual concept, or philosophy, but let's have it be fueled by desire. And many of you know the Sufi term for this desire is ishq, I-S-H-Q, which has been translated as nostalgia or longing. And usually the emphasis with this nostalgia has been the emphasis of the human for the beloved, which is certainly wonderful and powerful longing and nostalgia. But we're going to allow ourselves the freedom of expanding, including this, but expanding beyond it, and realizing just as much as we have a longing for however we relate to our personal Lord, to the divine, whatever terms come to our mind, transcendent, the ultimate wisdom of existence, the beloved, that the divine being has got, our personal Lord has got that same longing to experience us. The divine can never know what's going to be next with us, what's going to emerge from us in our relationship with the divine. So now feel, as we sit with open hearts and open minds, feeling our longing for the beloved and feeling the beloved's longing for us to come closer and closer. Neither side to disappear into the other side, but to enable something to be born by the interplay of our light and the light of the divine being. So feel now that the light that comes from you, and we're receiving the light from the divine, but that light gets transformed through us and returned to the divine. So there's this ongoing circulation. And allow yourself to calibrate this relationship, this connection of light. So just like on a radio dial, as you're tuning in a station, at first there might be some static, but when you really get it tuned right, it's very clear. So imagine we're tuning the light now, so the clarity of this light becomes very clear. This light that circulates. And in the circulation, there's a continual transformation of the light itself, of our manifest side. And there's a transformation of our personal Lord as well. It's all being transformed with each breath. And at a certain point, perhaps you can feel a stirring that takes place. And this stirring is not just coming from what you think of as inside of yourself. It's not just coming from what you think of as inside your personal Lord, but it's coming from within your human divine being, the fullness of your being. A stirring of something getting ready to be born. And as you open even more, now there's a new kind of light that emerges, which is the fruit of the circulation of both of these lights, the descending and the returning light. And this light is enabling new vistas of possibilities. New possibilities of beauty, love, wisdom. Any and all of the divine qualities now. Possibilities of the creation that can take place with these transformed qualities. And what seeds, what's going to emerge in this new creation? It's the deepest desire of our heart. So see if you can feel and stay present to, without trying to pull back or presume that you know what it's going to be, this blossoming, the deepest desire of your heart, into this vista of new possibilities. And this blossoming is taking place in a vast, beyond comprehension garden of the unfoldment of everything in existence, germinating into the fulfillment of its own possibilities. So feel the harmony of your own creation harmonizing with the unfoldment of the creations of everything in existence, every being, even every atom. And now let your consciousness return to the awareness of yourself, listening to this meditation, being in the world in the present time, and affirming the nobility of the uniqueness of what you have to give. Priceless beyond measure, as a gift to the divine and to all of creation, by participating in this never-ending process of circulation of light. Amen.